Hello, everybody. This is Lily, and on today's episode of Wild Wisdom Warriors, I would like to give an update on Earth correction, timeline manifestation, and also an update on the deconstruction of the matrix system. Also, I would like to get a little bit more into details about techno-spirituality in alternative communities and truth movement. And also maybe add a little bit more today about wild wisdom warriors or modern Gnostics or the revealers. What is the revealer's intent and why now, and what it all has to do with the manifestation of correction timeline. So I will start actually today bringing you guys back to my very original graph that I brought forth in September of 2014. That graph was about a state of human consciousness. And so in that graph, in the first column, in the left column, I talked about 3% of humanity that is gypsy souls, that are gypsy souls. And so the gypsy souls are what I call us now a wild wisdom warriors. It is the modern Gnostics, or those that hold that inner knowing within. Those are human beings that are on self-discovery path. And they are going through a real awakening process of that awakening to self, to true self. And in this series, Wild Wisdom Warriors series, I've talked a lot about true self in the past episodes. So those 3% gypsy souls are the modern Gnostics or the revealers. And so, and this is exactly, fits today, because in this last 2 years, I've been revealing information from from my own perception, from my own self-awareness, that and my own connection with the planetary core. And what I brought forth was my own perception on this reality and what is happening. So today, this is no different. Today, I'm going to be talking about my own perception on this reality and what is happening here. So, of course, it is just my own opinion, but it is for you. I'm just sharing with the rest of you, and mostly this information is for those that can hear it and understand this, just like you did, 2 years ago when I talked about gypsy souls and the self-awareness path and how to self-initiate yourself into this process to become the modern Gnostics. On the other side of that graph, I talked a lot about the mind control system. I talked about the harvesting path, and I talked about 85% of population that were mind controlled. But in that graph, I went specifically into programming and listed even quite a few programs, more major programs that were running in alternative communities or spiritual communities or truth movement on that time, because that was my audience. This is the information that I brought is for that audience. And so right there in September of 2014, I've talked about alternative spiritual communities deception, and I was revealing a lot of manipulated teachings, and was pointing out this last 2 years what I could and what I saw and what I could feel was happening. And so I said it and been saying for the last 2 years, I haven't changed my mind on anything. It has not changed. That 95%, maybe it changed a little bit today because we are in totally different reality today. But I used to say in the past, and those of you that you guys remember and watch my previous series of videos, I've talked a lot about spirituality and spiritual technology, as I called it. And I've talked a lot about the arcanic grid and the spiritual hierarchy, and was just trying to explain as much as I could that the reverse polarized duality that was used in spiritual communities to mind control spirit, what it was doing, that it was working against itself, and that it was all matrix system. Of course, I got a lot of upset people telling me that I was wrong, and because they were working, and this system works in this through reverse polarized duality. There's a mind control, spiritual mind control, and so right now, these days, we're calling that Techno-Spirituality, because it evolved. That system evolves because it is only held up, or this parasitic consciousness can only stay alive, and is through the human being given its power to it. So whatever the belief system or the belief that the human holds is what feeds the parasite. And so the belief systems are changing, and even in New Age, as of today, most of the people that started as a New Age, they transform and switch their programming up and differently, and now they're going sort of with the flow of Techno-Spirituality right now. But of course, they're saying, oh, we're not New Age because we don't believe in, Archangel Michael. But we believe in this technology, or that this technology or that technology is humanity's future, or that has more power than the human being. It got to that level. And right now, there's a lot of people in alternative communities that are very openly sort of having this techno-spirituality be applied to a literal technology, not even like spiritual technology as I talked in the past. So a little bit more about the spiritual technology that I've talked in the past. It is the parasitic consciousness, or the invasive consciousness, that is here, overlaid over human consciousness. It is a mind parasite. Okay, and if you want to know a little bit more about that, and then of course, Wild Wisdom Warriors, I'm sure you all know about ancient Gnostics teachings, but for those of you that are new to this information, I would strongly recommend to read some ancient Gnostic material, because it has a lot of information on the archonic grid and archonic system, and how all the mind control works. So anyway, back to techno-spirituality in alternative communities today. So we have a lot right now. It's gone, and what I've talked in the past, and in the last 2 years, I said that alternative communities that are what I call them now, that serve the matrix system, or that have the spirituality out there, teach spirituality that is matrix based, basically. That's what, because the matrix itself, it's like technology. So it's, and I've talked in the past about what this parasitic consciousness was, that it does not have a biological blueprint, that it only exists as a mind parasite here, and what it is, and so it's sort of kind of like AI, but the system that controls the human consciousness is artificial. It is an overlay, it is a binary field overlaid. So this binary field, and I've, it's kind of like a artificial consciousness. So a lot of people been calling this consciousness AI, but it really isn't. The AI is the middleman for this beings. There's beings because they used to be physical, and so now they are disconnected from source, so they don't have a physical template. And this is in fact why our human bodies have been prepared by this hierarchical system and archonic control for this artificial intelligence to take over our bodies. And that I've talked a lot about this in the end of 2015, about the black goo and nanotechnology in nanoparticles and all of that technology that is used, that I called spiritual technology, because it controls your psychic grid of humanity, collective psychic grid of humanity, and through the unconscious mind programming. So, back to what is techno-spirituality, and this is going to be difficult for some people. Hopefully, it's not difficult for wild wisdom warriors to hear, because you're self-aware, and when you're self-aware and you have your own self-awareness that you operate from as a creator being, then this is not going to be difficult for you to hear. Most of everything that it comes from external sources, any kind of activations, any kind of spiritual DNA activation, sacred geometry, symbols, on and on and on, to religion, and let's say, okay, let's talk about religion. The imposter god is Archon. Okay, that's Archon, and the Archon implements its control over humanity through this techno-spirituality, through this artificial binary grid. Okay, so most people that, let's say, like sacred geometry, I give this example about sacred geometry in the past, what they will tell you, and it really doesn't matter. For wild wisdom warriors, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Because if you're self-aware and you're operating through a source creator within, internally expressing your reality externally, and you're in full control of it, then you will understand that sacred geometry has no effect on you one way or another, because sacred geometry requires a belief into the symbol, that, or any other symbol. If you put a belief behind it, that's techno-spirituality. Anything and everything that is done through mental capacity first of a human being is techno-spirituality. Anything. And I've said it in the past, and a lot of people got really, really pissed at me for saying it, and I've told you guys in the past. And so I'm going to repeat that again, because it's one of the easier ones with sacred geometry and those people that like to use symbols and things like that for spirituality. Merkaba field. I've said it in the past. What Merkaba field is an overlaid parasitic construct. I'm going to repeat that. Merkaba field is parasite construct. It's parasitic. So, and I said this in the past. Now look back, or, because many of them are no longer talking about Merkaba field after that video that I did talking about it, how Merkaba field is parasitic. year ago, or even more than a year ago. But look back at every spiritual teaching and every spiritual guru that use any kind of symbols. If they use Merkaba field, binary symbol, Merkaba field binary symbol, it's important, binary symbol, to do any kind of activation, light body activation, DNA activation, protections, and all of that stuff. It is, if it in itself, by itself, it indicates something. Like I said in the past, any symbol can just indicate something, and that's why Gnostics had symbols, but they didn't put any belief behind it. They were just symbols for pure knowing within, that would trigger the pure knowing within. But the symbols, most of the symbols, sacred geometry is all been manipulated by archons for the purpose of sustaining matrix system. So everyone, and I'm going to say this again, every one of those people that have been teaching Merkaba field, binary Merkaba field as your light body, are teaching you or implementing a parasitic matrix system. Because Merkaba field as a light body is actually parasitic. It sucks the life out of you, actually. Because right now, and I know I've talked, of course, a lot about in the past, and there is a video on symbols that I made in my previous series that talks about the two spirals. The correct light body is it's the trinary light field. It's the two spirals coming together at the center, and of course that creates one it comes from one unified field, which I think it's quantum, maybe, I'm not sure, but there's a field which is like, that's the aura that I see in people sometimes. That's that field, that's the living field of creation. Okay, so that's the living light body. And so ancients had that as two triangles touching at the center. That was the symbol for it, an ancient symbol for it. But that was manipulated into Merkaba field, and Merkaba field has become the parasitic construct of this matrix. So that's why it is at the center of it. And so every teacher, every spiritual teachings in the past that you've seen were, if they have any kind of sort of activations or belief systems put behind Merkaba field, instead of just pure indication of what this means, then if there is a belief attached to it, then that is matrix parasitic construct. And that, of course, is then techno-spirituality. So those people, and this is why I say that there's so many of those right now in alternative communities, right now in spiritual communities, that don't know where to hide right now. And I said it in the past that in 2017, they better save up some money for some of the plastic surgeries, because they will need it. So, and of course that information on the real trinary light body is coming out even more, and I'm very happy to see that many revealers are now stepping up and revealing a lot of information that is, and I mean, it's just beautiful what is happening. And so yes, the alternative communities and alternative spiritual communities are also going through a transformation. And so yes, the alternative community swamp will be drained as well. And so because everything, like I said last year, a year ago, everything and everyone who's infected with this parasite or the parasitic consciousness will be revealed. There is no exceptions. Every one of these people will be revealed. Everyone who is possessed by it, because there's different stages of this. There's some people in a more in the human hierarchy pyramid here that are possessed, not just controlled. The main people or the collective human consciousness is controlled through like a hive mind control system, which is almost kind of like AI, very big AI. But then there is actually some people that are hosting this parasitic beings. And so we're gonna see a lot of those revelations come into surface. And of course, so I started talking about who are the revealers. So the revealers are those that are bringing their perception from their pure awareness, being in this reality, being the observer and seeing it what it is. And because I said that the 3%, the gypsy souls, are not anchored in matrix system, they're immune to that mind control, to the high mind control. So, but it can only be active, and it can only be true if you are standing in yourself. So I'm not saying that it's like, you know, you're born with it and that's it. You still have to go through that awakening and the self-metamorphosis process that I've talked about in my previous episodes. Self-metamorphosis is self-initiation into this field, living field, and being active in this pure awareness. And then there's a process of creating through that. As a creator being, as a human creator being, in here implement Earth's correction timeline, we need to operate from self, from the true self, which is God's self, or that source self, as I talked about in the past. So this is when you are a wild wisdom warrior, because you're self-generating, self-operating, and you're self-responsible for your reality. So you have no one but you. You are a spiritual warrior. You are spirit in expression. Spirit is the great spirit. It is all that it is. It is the living creation field. So if you operate through spirit, then you create your reality from your center, expressing internal into external. Okay? And so, of course, the revealers then are able to observe reality and see it for what it is. But it does take this process of self-initiating yourself into this field, into living field, to be able to see the reality for what it is. And when you see the reality for what it is, then you reveal the reality for what it is. Because all inner knowing is in the self-awareness. So to know the self. That's really is what is simply this all means. And this process, when you go through this process, and it's unmistakable. It's unmistakable. You're not going to be questioning what you see or what's going on around you. You won't be lost, because the one sign that a lot of people that are going through illusionary awakening are having right now is they're feeling lost. They don't know where to go and who to believe, because the matrix is in deconstruct, and a lot of programs are just glitching so much. And because they've been put into a reprogramming, but all the programs are glitching. This is why we have Mandela effect. It's because of all the reprogramming glitched, because the matrix system, as I called it in the past, it was sort of invaded. So that the hunter was hunted. That's what warriors do. Warriors hunt the hunter. So it was invaded. The system was invaded, and then it created that glitch. And so right now, a lot of people talking about their own experiences out there, because every time people talk, they reveal themselves. They reveal, if they're programmed, they will reveal their program. If they reveal, if they are operating from awareness, from their pure awareness, they will reveal that inner knowing and to you. And for somebody who is also in the inner knowing, who is operating and anchored in their universal center within, they can see then in full spectrum, like 360 degrees, you can see, energetically speaking, you can see frequency, or you can hear it. You can hear the truth and untruth. You can, and this is all through your own pure awareness within. You know what's truth, what's not. That's the inner knowing. That's self-reliant and self-generating reality. So the truth reveals itself to you by you being in your pure self, source self, all that it is. And that's how you can see the truth. So this is what I'm sharing. This is what I see, and this is what I'm sharing. Okay? So some people in alternative communities are right now, because the programming is glitching, and like what I observed in the past even 2 years, the programming in alternative communities, like with the disclosure, let's give an example on the disclosure, the controlled disclosure, because what we had in alternative community, people, probably 99% of people that talked about disclosure were they were doing a controlled disclosure. Their sources were low-level, agencies, government agency. Imagine how many more levels how many levels above agency, let's say this 3-letter agencies around the planet, how many levels of control above. It's hard to count. So when there's people that are giving in alternative communities this controlled disclosure from sources that are, let's say, controlled disclosure is actually part of the illusionary awakening process. And so that's why with the controlled disclosure, when there's any disclosure that is given through the matrix disciples in alternative communities, it is usually with the intent to manipulate humans into giving their power and creating another matrix loop. That's basically what it's done for. Yes, there's truth in it, because they have to involve the truth in it to trigger the people, so it's attractive. So the information is attractive to human being, and then the attempt is to create a certain belief system or a structure within a human mind, so then that belief system can override the spirit. And so that's why basically all this manipulation and all this corruption and takeover of alternative spiritual communities is for that very reason, is because matrix system and the archonic grid cannot create, because they're disconnected from source. All of that is disconnected from source. It is a human being in a human incarnation here in a human body, is that one that actually is a creator being. So they have to manipulate human creation. And so this is why, again, the techno-spirituality is so rampant, and it is an infection, because it is an infection. All of it is an infection of human consciousness. And so, of course, right now we are in 2017, and many of us have suspected that around this time we are truly going to step on the real awakening process, into real awakening process, on on this level of existence, I guess, in this plane of existence. And so I strongly believe, and not believe, I know, I know that we are on correction timeline. Correction timeline had activated in December of 2012, and it's been expanding, and we had quite a few waves, maybe not waves, but more, I would say it's an energy expansion. And in my episode from New Year episode from this series, I talked about Aquarian Age and what does it mean, and how it connects to the expansion of this trinary field energy that we're going through right now. So it is a trinary, the living field is a trinary, so anything that is binary in its nature will be of the matrix system. So that's all sort of update that I have on the direct disclosure and techno-spirituality. What we might see a lot more, and I already seen some of this, is the techno-spirituality is going to be glitching even more. A lot of people are noticing that reprogramming and having this sort of Mandela effect within their own programming. Okay, and some people, I have seen some people discuss and talk about about a process that, the way I see it, it's when the programs get wiped. Some people get the programs get wiped, and before they can be reprogrammed, or they can no longer be reprogrammed by the matrix because they're glitching or whatever is going on. Some people are being reported recently in alternative communities that they've been in this wiped state of being, that they've experienced being wiped, mind wiped. And they've described it, some of them describe it as being in this completely empty room with white walls, and they don't have anything, any programs projected at them. So it's interesting to watch that. I'm not sure if those people understand what is happening to them, but this is a great chance for those people to step into this self-awareness and step into a real true awakening process of a human being to self, to creator self. And so I hope that, this deconstruct, because that to me, it tells me that there is a there is a reprogramming glitch. Okay, so I'm observing this and I'm seeing it for what it is, and it is my perspective on it. So if we have more of that, then of course humanity can now, and this is maybe why the timing of 2017 fits perfectly, and the Aquarian Age is what this is all about, is the true awakening of humanity, which is this self-awareness. A creator being, human being is a creator being, and so this true awakening will bring into manifestation an earth correction timeline. So for today, I think that's all I'm going to talk about on techno-spirituality and on direct disclosure. I will add a little bit more about Wild Wisdom Warriors, and I will read the statement from Wild Wisdom Warriors Facebook group. Wild Wisdom Warriors are the new Gnostics of today, warriors endowed with wisdom, divine Sophia, and knowledge, Gnosis. When this true wisdom is embraced internally and expressed externally, we the warriors become true human beings, free and wild as nature intended. This is the correct evolutionary acceleration for Earth and humanity today. So as you can see, I brought to your attention my original graft and my original information. I've been on this wild wisdom warrior path ever since, and yes, a lot of my information had a lot to do with alternative communities and religion on this plane of existence. And this is what I know a lot about, because I had experience with religion, and I've learned a lot about New Age, and I've been part of all these alternative communities and study a lot of alternative spiritual teachings. So now I just speak my truth about it. And as you can see from the very beginning, that's sort of been my part, so I can't get away from alternative communities. So I'm talking to you guys now again, and I'm just telling you, it's not meant, I am not saying this information to put somebody down or to be on one side or another. I am a spiritual warrior. I'm on no one's side. I'm on no one's ego side. I'm on my spirit side. And I'm on my side, and I am on the side of human spirit. This is the side that I am on. I am not dividing anybody in alternative community. I'm just presenting the information for what I see and the way I see it. This is my truth about it. I've been speaking about it and making videos about it for the last 2 years. And so I continue to speak about it. But today, in this series, Wild Wisdom Warrior series, I am extremely excited about future of humanity, because we just stepped into Aquarian Age, and we're just beginning. We're just beginning. The transformation of humanity, just beginning. And it's not going to be easy. There is a lot of things that will be revealed still in this coming year, in 2017 even. And a lot of things will be unraveled and unveiled. And some of those things will be heavy, energetically heavy. But those of us that I've been talking about, we've been preparing for this time. And in last 2 years, I've been working with a group of people, with our soul group, to help each other and to support each other in this process of self-realization. And so, because this is what it takes for a human being, we have to heal our own selves first before we can heal anything else around us. We have to heal and reclaim our own selves, our own true self. We have to reclaim it first, because by reclaiming your true self and having the awareness that you are the source creation, is what gets you out of the matrix system. It is you who is responsible for your own self, and it is you who is responsible to pull yourself out of the matrix control and ignite your spirit within you and gain the awareness of who you truly are as a human being. You are source creator being. And to the degree that you have awareness that you and source are one, is to the degree that you are free from matrix control. I'll repeat that. To the degree of your own awareness, to the degree that you are aware that you and source are one and the same, is to the degree that you're free from matrix control. And so I'm going to leave you with those words. And until next time, I thank you so much for watching. I love you all, Wild Wisdom Warriors. Until next time, stay wild.